What in the world is this? I know I've been saying that a lot lately, but no, seriously, what in the world is this? This very weird, and weird is putting it lightly, looking building is Barack Obama's Presidential Center, which will have its official opening grand ceremony on June 18th, so I'm sure there's going to be some very odd symbolism to look out for, followed by its official opening to the public on June 19th. This will be located in Jackson Park in Chicago, but something about it reminded me of Trump's Tower over in New York. Because like Trump's Tower, this presidential center for Obama also has the black cube symbolism. There's even black cube symbolism inside the presidential center as well, which kind of looks less like a black cube and more like a black monolith. Black cube worship is Saturn worship. It's Baal worship. It is very prevalent. It's everywhere. It's even at where the Twin Tower buildings once stood. When they were taken down, the black cubes are in their place. One of the most powerful organizations on Earth, BlackRock, is named after the black cube. But going back to this Barack Obama Presidential Center, here's what's even more bizarre about this black cube on the outside. You can clearly see that it has windows. But then they decide to cover the whole black cube up with a bunch of words and phrases. The entire passage supposedly reads, "You are America, unconstrained by habit and convention, uncumbered by what is, ready to seize what ought to be. For everywhere in this country there are first steps to be taken. There is new ground to cover. There are more bridges to be crossed. America is not the project of any one person. The single most powerful word in our democracy is the word we. We the people, we shall overcome. Yes, we can. The word is owned by no one. It belongs to everyone. Oh, what a glorious task we are given to continually try to improve this great nation of ours." But yeah, these words are directly in front of this black cube, and I truly wonder what could even lurk beneath this presidential center. So I found this to be very interesting, and I know I'm late to the party when it comes talking about this, but I have not been able to record for the past few days. But I do want to talk about the 2026 Economist magazine cover, and as I said before, it seems like it's a gift that keeps on giving like the previous covers before it. If you had seen my most recent video on Minutes of Horror, I had spoken about this B-52 Stratos Fortress that crashed over at a military base in California. Again, supposedly anyway, I mean there's absolutely nothing left. Oddly enough, as news was there filming live, you could see this red star balloon just come out of nowhere, zoom by really fast. Without a doubt very creepy, it gives off Stephen King's It vibes, but it gets even more interesting when you go back to the 2026 Economist magazine cover, and you can see that there are red balloons placed at certain points on this cover. And I said how the red balloon in a lot of media means either impending doom or destruction. You can see one of the balloons was placed near two men fighting, and to me, this could represent the UFC fight that took place at the White House lawn. And as coincidence may have it, news came out yesterday that a terror event was foiled where drones and snipers were going to be used on individuals attending this event. But that was yesterday's video, right? There's a reason why I'm talking about this again today, and it has to do with this individual right here on the cover. This person who is right next to Prime Minister Modi and Trump, so you would think they play some kind of important role. When I did a breakdown of this cover, I thought this individual here was one of two people, either Marjorie Taylor Greene or Erica Kirk, because they were playing a bigger and bigger role on the world stage in the news. But to my surprise, here's what The Economist said about this tall blonde figure in red. They said that this person is not a specific real-world political figure. Illustrated by Andrew Ray, the spherical cover collage features several symbolic characters and concepts. The tall blonde individual in red represents the futuristic integration of AI and a general vision of the normalization of disorder. Well, anyway, this cover was released back on November of 2025. Flash forward to today, you have investigator, journalist, and former Illinois governor candidate Jon Stewart post this on June 12th. He posted this on X saying, "Posted then immediately removed." He doesn't say who posted it or where it was posted. I'm assuming Trump had posted this over on Truth Social. A photo which shows Trump surrounded by three tall blonde figures in red. These tall blonde figures looking eerily similar to the tall blonde figure in red seen on the 2026 Economist magazine cover. But going back to this photo right here, you have some people believing that these could be Nordic aliens. You have others believing that these are the members of the King's Guard of Norway, because they're passing around a screenshot of this Guardian article right here. This article does not exist, and also the King's Guard of Norway does not look like this. But let's talk about the more obvious, that this photo is AI, which makes it a lot more interesting given the fact that this matches what the Economist magazine said. How the tall blonde person in red represents the futuristic of AI, but it's also the normalization of disorder. I take that as being a harmful distortion of reality. It doesn't matter if this photo is AI or not, they can release it and use it in any agenda they want to. Like, for example, Project Bluebeam, or trying to test to see if the public can determine what's AI or not, or if they'll accept some screenshot of an article as the truth. And that's scary as AI gets better and better and improves more and more. And I'm talking about the public AI. I'm not talking about the AI that they've had and mastered for decades upon decades, but the version that we have is going to get better and better to the point that we can no longer tell what's real and what's fake. We can hardly do that now. But imagine 5 years from now. They have the power to release something across social media in photo or video, and they have the power to tell us what's real and what's fake, because to us, it's AI until mainstream news and media, which is owned and operated by these three-letter organizations, tells us whether it's real or fake. This is why we had people posting the screenshot of the Guardian article, and a lot of people believed that Guardian article was real. This article in the screenshot here was a test to see if people will still believe mainstream news. The government then come out and say, yeah, those people in red that you saw in that photo was real. These are one of the 4 aliens that we have in communication with. Millions upon millions of people will believe it. And this goes back to what Trump said. One of the most important things he said back in January. When a bag was seen being thrown out of the White House window, reporters asked him about it, and he said this.
Each window weighs about 600 pounds. You have to be pretty strong to open them up. No, that has to be. Where was the window? Let me see.
Maybe from the renovations.
Which is the window?
It looks like this is on the 15th Street side, I think.
Yeah.
So right here.
Yeah, those windows are sealed. Those windows they're all sealed. You can't open them.
What you were saying regarding the federal.
It's the kind of thing they do. And one of the problems we have with AI, it's both good and bad. If something happens really bad, just blame AI. But also they create things, it works both ways. If something happens that's really bad, maybe I'll have to just blame AI. But also they create things, it works both ways.
So they can create something with AI and say that it's real. Again, this was one of the most important things he has said in his entire presidency, and it flew under a lot of people's radar, but it's important given the day and age that we are in where AI has taken over everything. Think about all these events we're seeing on the news and across social media, events designed to get us to fight one another, to pull on our emotions, events we normally don't see with our own eyes, but we constantly see it on the news and social media, events that had transpired that people are even calling for a civil war. Which of these are real and which of these were created by AI but we're told are real? And you can see how this can be used for future events, especially when it comes to their alien agenda. The person or people in red represent any story, narrative, test, agenda, distraction they want it to be, whether real or not. So with them releasing this photo on social media and it's spreading like wildfire, are they testing the public's perception of reality? Because a much bigger event is coming down the pipeline, that when this event happens, it's going to have some kind of major repercussions on society, something like we saw back in New York in 2001, and this event that they will say is real might just be AI. But how does the Economist magazine know this kind of stuff ahead of time? Well, interestingly enough, they are one of the few media organizations that attend the Bilderberg meetings every year. They also attended the meeting this year as well, the Bilderbergs, which is a who's who of Triceratops species of the so-called powers that be that dictate what's coming in the future. Absolutely no cameras allowed, and anything that's said inside the Bilderberg meeting cannot get out to the public. It's much different than the World Economic Forum, where it's a public forum, but the real power is held within the Bilderbergs. Moving on, but still talking about secret meetings and the so-called powers that be, it has come out that Peter the Reptile Thiel has been holding his own secret gatherings with the so-called powers that be under a society called the Dialogue Society. It has come out from Wired that a trove of internal records show that Peter, they see me sweating, but I'm not sweating Thiel, has been sending out a bunch of private invitations to people in positions of power, whether it's governors, senators, military officials, CEOs, executives, and the such, to come to a secret private retreat over in Ireland to attend an off-the-record meeting, where they can talk about things in complete secrecy. This dialogue society has spent 2 decades declining to disclose its members and what they've been talking about. Well, the Swiss hacktivist Maya Arson Crime W group, known for exposing the United States government's no-fly list and breaching surveillance cameras of certain companies, discovered a directory on the group's website which led to a massive data leak exposing its members and what they have been talking about. The directory lists 222 people, very interesting number, and some of the topics they were going to talk about, which includes money, does buy happiness, bring back nuclear, navigating World War III, that's very interesting, battlefield technologies, and how's your sex life. Other talks include build a cult, moderated by the founder of the Christian networking site Pray.com, and build a party run by a former White House national security official. But this list shows some pretty big names and even shows some major military officials, like for example, one of the names was NATO's Supreme Allied Commander of Europe and the head of the United States European Command, who took the post in July of 2025 and is recorded on the leak list as having attended dialogue gatherings since 2021. Really makes you wonder the timing of these meetings, how he really got that position of leadership, and who he's really working for. The website directory also named sitting Trump administration officials, 2 United States senators, 6 members of the PayPal Mafia, a former Middle East chief of intelligence, and a sitting ambassador to the United States, along with the founders and directors of many of the country's largest surveillance data broker and advertising data companies, probably also Flock and Palantir. Other names also include Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Elon Musk's name was on the list, Senator Ted Cruz, but it also goes across party lines because the Senator of New Jersey's name was on the list, Cory Booker, the Governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, Wes Moore, the Governor of Maryland, Jim Himes, a United States Congressman for Connecticut, Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, among others. The rabbit hole goes deeper and deeper. But here's where things get a little bit more creepy because they want to make it seem like it's just a gathering, a meeting, mainly to discuss AI and the future of AI. Because it has also come out that Dialogue also plays matchmaker. Its participant form asks registrants whether they are quote-unquote looking for love and offers to include single man, single woman, or quote-unquote other respondents in future matchmaking. That kind of gives off a little Jeffrey vibe. Remember when names connected to Jeffrey started to get released and their excuse was, oh, we were just using him for networking. We were using him for business. We had nothing to do with the trafficking of children, women, and I'm sure men, and the horrific experiments that were going on that involved eugenics, DNA, and things like that. Nothing involved with the island, it was just business and networking. And a lot of people theorize that a certain country that begins with the letter I had those files released as some sort of blackmail, because now we're seeing that this country is merging with the United States military. It is also very interesting the timing of this hack and this information being released, given the fact that not too long ago we heard of an agreement between Iran and the United States, and I'm sure again another country does not like that. I mean, the timing is indeed a very big quote-unquote coincidence. The other choice on that list is very interesting. Do you prefer man, woman, or other? They could spin it and say that, oh, because so many different people identify as a different gender, that's what we meant. But I can take other meaning as child, given the fact of everything we have known from things that have come out when it comes to these secret gatherings, meetings, and get-togethers. These politicians, these supposed policymakers, those that supposedly run society, should not be gathering in secrecy in a secret society. JFK gave that exact speech before he was popped. But here we are, with their choice of man, woman, or other. In a normal world, in a non-scripted society, any politician that's voted for by the people that is caught joining a secret society where they're talking about things in secrecy that has to do with the public should automatically be made to step down from their position. If you believe in voting, because I don't, but I'm talking about if we lived in a reality that's not scripted, I voted for you to work for me, so why are you having secret meetings behind my back to talk about me and possibly do other things? And again, as you can see, it's people on the left and the right and in the middle attending this secret society. But with that being said, let's go ahead and see what other people are talking about.
So while everyone's arguing about the war, Congress is quietly building something brand new. How about a seventh branch of the United States Armed Service? They're calling it the Cyber Force. This week, a bipartisan commission dropped an 83-page report recommending it and Senator Gillibrand introduce the amendment to make it real. It's in the same bill I've been covering all week, the 2027 NDAA. But here's what they want: 20,000 active duty personnel, up to 5,000 National Guard, 6,000 civilians. And here's the part that should bother every enlisted service member watching this. The commission recommends officers and warrant officers only. No enlisted, none. The cost to stand it up, try 10 to 11 billion. And then operational in about 12 to 18 months. They're moving that fast. And the National Guard cyber units, they'll both operate under both federal and state authority. Think about what that means for a second. I really want you to put that into perspective. Same Congress, same bill, same budget. They have $10 billion for a branch, but the Richard Starr Act for combat injured veterans, still expensive. I read the bill, so you don't have to. Share this before it disappears on the feed.
I saw this video off Barry Stepp's channel, and this is the part of the military that will be dealing with cybercrime. But this is also the same bill that will be merging the United States military with Israel's military. The main purpose of that merger, we're told anyway, is not boots on the ground, but tech. So this is more than likely the part of the military that's expanding to allow Israel in, but this is the part of the military that will be overseeing a lot of data, a lot of our data.
I think we've reached a point where it will be hard to imagine that mass audiences can afford thousands of dollars to spend on a console generation. I think we will start to see radically different business models that we never expected start to come into orbit later this year. We will continue to look at new business models, I think, is what is needed for console, rather than just the most premium, high-performance console in the world.
There's a lot of speculation that you're no longer going to be able to own an Xbox, and Microsoft is going to move towards a monthly subscription model to get the console and the games. And there is some evidence for this because Microsoft has already introduced monthly financing plans for new console days. They did this in 2020. This is when everyone started talking about no longer owning anything. And if you look at this, it's actually a pretty decent deal, but you don't own the hardware anymore. You just pay monthly and you get the console bundled with Game Pass. So this is moving away from owning a console and instead just renting it. You will own nothing.
This won't just end at Xbox. It'll also be PlayStation, Nintendo, but it won't just be video games. It'll be cars. It'll be all types of appliances. You won't be able to own a home. You'll only be able to rent because, as the World Economic Forum said, you will own nothing in their future and still be happy.
Okay, someone sent me this video from Dowagiac, Michigan, which is measuring the audio from a data center that's near this guy's house. Dude, I would go freaking nuts. I don't know how anyone could live near these things. It would make you go crazy. We're not even talking about what they call infrasound, which is sound your ears can't really detect, but like some type of part of your brain does detect it, and it's like a stressor, and it raises cortisol and all that. Listen to this. This is why people are saying no to data centers, especially the gigantic one in Utah.
You can see it's, high 58s, 59s to 60.
Now, this is where it gets extremely weird that I want one of you guys who's a lot smarter than me to figure this out. Why does the United States have between 4,000 and 5,400 data centers, whereas China, which is said to have a vastly larger population, have less than 500 data centers? If these data centers are about data and cloud services and all that, how the hell does China, with I think the official numbers are 1 point something billion people, have a fraction, like 10% of the data centers that the US has? Unless these data centers are for something else, which surely I wouldn't think that, because the official narrative is that it's about cloud services. United States hosts roughly 40 to 43% of the world's data centers. These facilities are heavily backed, yada, yada, yada. China operates fewer facilities, though many Chinese data centers are built on a much larger physical scale to serve its massive domestic market. Okay, so maybe China has unfathomably large data centers that would be 10 times the size. Maybe let's say they have 500 facilities. Maybe their 500 facilities are all 10 times the size of the US's facilities. It just seems a bit sus. And either way, when they tell you, we have to beat China in the AI race, we got to make more AI data centers because China's making more than us and we got to beat them. That is a selling point to get you to acquiesce to having data centers built and AI built, which in the end, really, despite what they're telling you, is not going to benefit our daily lives.
That great video came from Shane Vibes. These data centers, they produce, again, something called infrasound, which is low vibrational and has been known to make people sick, not make them feel well. They replaced all the bells with their healing properties with the noises of these data centers. He is correct. The whole China thing is an excuse. I pointed out multiple times before that all these countries are working hand in hand, these quote-unquote enemies, when it comes to these data centers. Just look up ITER, which is supposed to be this massive star they're building on Earth, which the United States and China are a part of.
I have a list of some of the bad things Flock has done.
Don't want to work with us after you sign the contract? Too bad, cameras stay up. Flock reinstalled the cameras against the city's wishes without their permission. Cameras were still on and still scanning license plates. City of Evanston sends a cease and desist to Flock Safety to get them to remove the cameras. Flock has shared data with U.S. Border Patrol, ICE, and Homeland Security investigations in violation of Illinois state law. Cancel the contract with Flock Safety and found 2 unauthorized Falcon ALTR cameras running without the city's permission after they are removed 16 of their Flock cameras. The city noted that the nationwide search setting was turned on not by themselves, but by Flock. It's not public safety, it's a dissident hunting machine. And every day that we continue to have these cameras, they put us at greater risk than any amount of these crimes they claim they solved could ever. Cancel the Flock contracts. Cancel.
They'll cancel the contracts but still allow these Flock cameras to run because they are still collecting data, and those city officials that are in charge of those contracts, they are getting paid good amount of money from Flock for this data. Remember when Amazon said they canceled their Ring partnership with Flock because of all the backlash? Does anybody honestly believe that?
All right, so I wanted to let you guys know that it's very likely they're going to start deploying this weapon. This is a real weapon. It is real. It is real. They're going to start deploying this weapon more and more. And if people are telling you they're hearing these things, you might want to take them seriously.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads. And those voices are being transmitted by microwave or other methods.
Well, several viewers asked us to investigate what they call electronic harassment. KMIR 6's Angela Monroe joins us now with what she's discovered. Angela.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms, but after searching the internet, I found dozens of websites dedicated to the phenomenon and several Valley residents who say they're victims.
How much more can you invade me than to go into my brain? It sounds like somebody else is reading the book, only it's thoughts.
We're not having a group hallucination. This is actually something that's happening.
These men all live in the area, didn't know each other before the voices started, and say someone is playing mind games with them.
Mostly it's a lot of derogatory comments about whatever you're thinking about.
Only time I ever had a whole sentence, he said, "This is not about you," which just frosted me. If it's not about me, what the hell am I going through all this for?
Kevin Bond says he used to have a normal life.
I was living in the San Diego area, was clerking for a federal judge, and I noticed that I was being followed by a whole bunch of people.
According to the websites, what Bond is describing is called gang stalking. He moved to Palm Springs to escape.
I started hearing, as you'll hear, hearing voices and what they'll call voice to skull or microwave hearing.
Bob Stansfield says his experience was similar and started a decade ago.
They were active in following me around here, And I started hearing the voices a little bit after the vehicular stalking.
Randall Ringer says the voices started when he was undergoing chemotherapy.
The first thing that was said was Randall Ringer. And I sat up straight and I went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, looked myself in the eyes, and I said, did that really happen?
Bond says he's found more than 300 victims locally and is tracking others across the state through billboards. In Johnson Valley, a Freedom House just opened to help people who believe they are being targeted.
To many of you who find yourselves the object of covert harassment, that there is hope and that you are not alone, and that we are striving to find legislation and we're working towards freedom for all.
Jarek Robinson leads a national group called Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance. He says he knows who's playing mind games.
Rogue government officials that are sponsoring this, also corrupt business officials, and private citizens.
And he also told us how.
Most of it is delivered by microwave, and I believe it's satellite delivered, whether someone is on a remote location using a laptop or next door using the desktop.
Bond says neurotransmitter chips that run off body electricity have been inserted into some people.
And they assign cell phone numbers to them. The cell phone numbers are then run through a computer, and a computer translates your thoughts. This crime has been available to the military for 60 years.
Yeah, so I used to think all of these people were crazy, not so much anymore. But one thing I was thinking as I was watching that, do you think it's possible that they might put a voice into a whole bunch of modern day Christians' heads? A bunch of people that know that Jesus is coming back. Do you think it's possible that you might be hearing a voice that you think is God? And it might not be, but it's part of Project Bluebeam. Do you think that's a possibility? Anyway, type your comments below.
That video came from Eric Mutzos, and yeah, that's something I think about quite often because they do have the technology, the capabilities to do so, and they've actually came out and said they've tried this before, but in another country, over in, I believe it was Iraq. They were going to have them hear the voice of Allah, but they couldn't figure out what Allah sound like or look like. This is where heavy discernment is really going to come into play. But unfortunately, so many people are going to fall for it. This is how extreme this technology that's going to be used will be.